This is Chris,
And I'm Angela.
and this is the Spice.
Oh,
Ho,
oh, oh.
ho. Give her some more.
Give me some more.
La.
La ha ha hi.
All right, very
Fa,
good, man.
lifer.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great.
Yeah, yeah, that's
Doing
good.
great. And yourself?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Was able to, as you well know, was able to get some stuff done.
Yes. We got a lot of stuff done
Yeah,
today. We really did. So
yeah,
we're in a pretty good mood.
yeah. And we worked hard, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion, and we make sure we eat the way we want,
Yes.
and just, we're trying to do like an intermittent style, but it's a little different. But what we wanted to focus on was intermittent fasting.
Yes.
Speaking of that, and going to give some of the goods, the ups and downs, positives, point of view. I think we
Mm-hmm.
both kind of experienced it and some of the struggles with it. You got a lot of expertise in it.
Yeah, I can talk to you guys about, when I first started because it's been a while. I've been introduced, like when I was introduced to intermittent fasting. So, yeah, we're going to discuss that.
Yeah, and we'll look at some of the direct information of what it means, and
Mm-hmm.
we'll kind of go through that together. And I think that's a lot that we have coming up on the Spice Old Life,
Yeah,
guys.
we're ready.
You wanted to get into that first, kind of like what is some of your, when did you first start getting into intermittent fasting, or when did you even hear about it?
All right. So, the first time I've heard about intermittent fasting, I was doing keto, and that was in the year of 2014. That's when I didn't know anything about keto, didn't know anything about intermittent fasting. So first, I did keto. So I joined a few of the groups, just to learn more about it, more like social media groups. Also, follow a few, pages of people that were doing the keto for a while. So now, when I came upon my first plateau, because I was on keto for about, I would say about 2 months before, the 2 or month and a half before I ran into a plateau. So the question, I look and I'm like, what can I do? I was looking at all that I can to figure out what's going on because, ketone's supposed to be burning fat. Why wasn't that scale moving? So I was like concerned about that. So basically, that's when I heard about intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting. And I'm
Okay,
sorry if I say it fast, I'm going to say it really short.
right.
Intermittent or intermittent fasting. So basically, the first, that was 2014, and that was with the keto diet. Soon as I started intermittent fasting, that weight
Like butter.
melted off like butter.
Okay. So what I wanted to do, or what I would like to do, is just give for those that may like, what is that? Some people, most people are probably very familiar with it, but I wanted to give some insight from it's the John Hopkins School
Mm-hmm.
of Medicine.
Yeah.
It talked about intermittent fasting. Um, it says intermittent fasting is direct. It's pretty direct. It says, what is it and how does it work? Which is the question that it has. It says intermittent fasting is an eating plan that switches between fasting and eating on a regular schedule. And now research shows that intermittent fasting is a way to manage your weight and prevent or even reverse some of the forms of diseases. Now the question is, how do you do that? And then is it safe? So directly intermittent fasting, it says many diets focus on what you eat, but intermittent fasting is all about when you eat. All right, so I'm gonna let Angela kind of cover some of the things it says here, and also some notes from this neuroscientist here.
Okay. It says with intermittent fasting, you only eat during a specific time. Research shows that fasting for a certain number of hours each day or eating just one meal a couple of days a week may have health benefits. And John Hopkins neuroscientist Mark Matson has studied intermittent fasting for 25 years. He says our bodies have evolved to be able to go without food for many hours or even several days or longer. And they're talking about prehistoric times.
Yeah, hunters and farmers and all that. But
Yeah.
let's look at what the experts say. It says experts note that even 50 years ago,
Yeah.
it was easy. And this is true. Y'all think, people think about it. You look back, look at even some of the shows or just some research. 50 years ago, it was easier to maintain a healthy weight in the United States.
Yeah.
There were more, because think about it, there were any, no computers.
That's true.
And of course, all shows went off at 11. So you would get those color stripes or something, or some kind of music would play and it would go off, and that would be the end of it, and people would go to sleep, and people didn't use TV as a nightlight.
This is ironic that we're talking about that. You mentioned that because we was talking about that today at work, and some of the shows that they was mentioning, I didn't have a clue some of the shows, but they talked about how the TV went off.
Yeah,
At a
and
certain time.
a lot of jobs and play were where it was a. Think about it back then, most jobs and people played a lot because of the kind of games, because of bicycles and all the sports and stuff. They were outside.
Outside, yes.
And
Yes.
we were an industrial nation, as it were. So you had to build a lot and create a lot. So a lot of stuff was outside, not inside, and people in general got more exercise.
Yes.
So what has happened since then, according to this information, if we think about it, and everybody can admit to this.
So with the internet and TV and other entertainment available 24/7, many adults and children stay awake for longer hours to watch TV, scroll through social media, play games, and chat online. That can mean sitting and snacking all day and most of the night.
Right. So since people sometimes eat because they're bored, eat because they're up, and the exercise is going down, which means that you're taking in more calorie, you're burning less, which higher your risk of obesity, diabetes, heart disease, all kind of illness.
Yes.
So you can tell me some of the things you've done, and then we can look at,
Sure.
how it kind of works.
All right. Now we're actually talking about some of the different types of intermittent fasting that I experienced. Well, we'll talk about the beginning because it's evolved.
Yeah, it's a lot of flexibilities.
A lot of flexibility. So basically, I started with the easiest one. The most easiest and basic one was 16/8. So that's 16 hours fasting and 8-hour feeding.
Right.
So and I was playing around with the hours because I know that was my first time fasting. And also one plus was that because I was on keto and I was already what they call keto adapted, which means that the ketones were burning the fat. So the fat was burning.
Okay.
So,
whoa. Ketones. What is it?
Well, yeah, I'll let you know about that.
Okay.
that is getting into keto.
Fancy land.
So basically, what I'm saying, being keto adapted, that was helping with the appetite suppressant.
Right.
To suppress the appetite when the ketones are burning your fat. But because of that, I was able to. That helped me with the fasting window.
Right.
To kind of help me to. I had two things working for me, help me to decrease or get my weight loss started. Okay. But basically the easiest way, the easiest hours for me were like doing lunch and then doing dinner.
I got you.
Now, because of how my body is, especially at night, and I played around with the window. The most effective window was me stopping either at 5 o'clock in the evening at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. So basically like from 12 1, 2, probably, well, you know what, whatever window it is where I stop eating about 6 o'clock. And if I was out or something to kind of give me flexibility, I went up to 7. But basically, my most effective weight loss if I is when I stop eating at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
And yeah, and keto helped me, to do that because it was an appetite suppressant. That
Okay.
diet was.
All right. So why do you think that was 6 o'clock? How did you come to that? What was some of
Yeah.
the research, so to speak?
I think because I didn't go to sleep around what 9 or 10, so they gave my body time to digest the food for the food to get into into the intestine, and I
Testing.
wasn't. I was still up. I was still walking around. And it gave time for my body to burn the calories.
Right.
So if I ate and then went to sleep, the calories would have probably, or the food would probably digest it slower,
Hmm.
and which means a slower progress. But for me, that was more effective for me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are you doing it now?
Yes, I'm intermittent. I'm sorry, guys. I keep saying intermittent. Okay,
It's
intermittent.
just easier.
Yeah, I am
I'm guilty.
intermittent fasting.
And then you
Yes.
got to put the intermittent,
Yeah.
intermittent. So if
So
you say intermittent, I
yeah,
think a lot of school teachers and English teachers and a lot of people would be so excited and
yeah,
happy. If you say intermittent, I think we'll still survive. We'll be
yeah,
okay because either way, I think most people know exactly what you mean, so it's okay.
yeah.
And I've been saying intermittent for a minute.
So one thing I want to bring up too, it was fasting that we were doing. I think
Hmm.
we kind of was mixing it up about, was that last year that we did our little thing.
Right.
So where
Okay.
we kind of gave it a boost of our
Hmm.
weight loss.
Hmm.
Um, did you want to bring that out now? Do you want to do that later?
When we use exactly what part, like when we did it.
Yeah, when we did it, because we did
I
it
mean,
like for a month, I think, and we did,
well, I'll say this: when we the first time, it was, if I remember correctly, for me, it was not as difficult as I thought it would be, and I felt good, and I think I had some. I don't think I know I had some good results.
Yes,
The thing I was careful not to do was not do it to a point where I was not eating or starving myself or making myself not feel well, which is very careful. You have to be careful where you making sure you still drink water, making sure you're not dizzy or dehydrated. So my
yes.
experience, I remember the first time, for some reason, and I can speak on even now, it just seemed like it's a little tougher.
Yeah, I would say this. One of the things that I know is that you're going to have to play around. I mean, continue intermittent fast. There are so many different types of intermittent fast, which we'll probably go over later. But you want to tailor it towards the way that you eat, because I'm telling you, some people can't do uh, the hours, I guess.
Right.
I mean, it could be more flexible than the 16/8. I think there's one that's 10 14, I think 10 14 or whatever, but we'll go over that later. But what you don't want to do is make it a stressful thing for yourself. For me, 16/8 is just a breeze to me. I I'm really not much of a breakfast person. I love brunch. You're talking about waiting till either, I mean, I did from 11. I think that's what I did. You either start eating at 11 or 12.
Hmm.
And then stop eating at a certain time. When I went to bed now. Of course, I did wake up hungry, but I was able to get through that with teas. And also too, I drank, like I make like a little apple cider vinegar concoction, cause that helps too.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't get too stressed out about it. Tailor things toward you and make sure that you getting those liquids in. Also, make sure that you, as far as hydration and electrolytes, because at a certain point when you're fasting, even past 12 hours, I think you're gonna start producing little ketones or whatever. But make sure that you are getting in enough liquids.
Now, speaking of the hours, I think that's key. Those two things are key. Hours and how long you fast versus what you try to do when you're eating. Because I think some of us, and I'm probably guilty of it, is like, oh well, let me get as much as I can in there, stuff it. But really, the thing is to try to eat and do what you can within the time that you decide to give yourself, not try to stuff your stomach, because then that would defeat the purpose. It took me a minute to figure that out too.
Exactly, because the one of the main purpose of intermittent fasting, you're training yourself to try to eat less. Like I know that my stomach shrinks when I'm intermittent fasting. At this point, because what I did in regards to what was that? This was probably around the pandemic time. I realized that I was still losing weight when I was off the keto because I was trying to do intermittent fasting keto, but I noticed that when I'm eating sensibly and then intermittent fasting, I'm getting the same results as I would if I was, on keto. And the only thing is because keto, I was still producing ketones too, which was interesting. So, I think it's very beneficial for your body. But, also when like you stated, Christopher, the amount of food that you're eating does matter too. So don't overstuff yourself.
Because and I'll tell you why. I'm gonna look some. This is what some more information from this Hopkins School of Medicine and
Mm-hmm.
what Dr. Matson says. So it says there are several ways to do intermittent fasting, but they are all based on choosing regular time periods to eat and fast. For instance, you might try eating only during an 8-hour period each day and fast for the remainder. Or you might choose to eat only one meal a day, 2 days a week. There are many different intermittent fasting schedules. See, that's the thing, and that's what you were talking about, the flexibility. Now, Dr. Masson says that after hours without food, this is the key. The body exhausts its sugar stores and starts burning fat, which brings us, and he refers to this as metabolic switching. But it also triggers what were you talking about
The
earlier?
ketones, the production of ketones in your system.
And how does that work? How do you even know when your ketones are kicking in, or how does that connect to highs and lows of that?
Um, the only way that you know, like I would say this, you can have different measurement tools.
Right. I was going to ask you. So it's ways you can test it, right?
Yeah, so
Okay. Good.
yeah, there's ways that you can test to see. There's
So they just have to
you
research
can
it.
prick your finger and do the little that, or you can
So just
on
go ahead. I'm sorry.
or you can use those keto sticks where you have to urinate on the stick and it'll tell you what
Okay.
level you are.
Yeah. So just research it. There's ways you
Yeah.
can test the ketones. What I was trying, I guess, what I'm trying to get at is how do you? What is it that you're looking for? I guess is it to be low in ketones, high in ketones, medium in
Well,
ketones?
what I'm
What is it? What is it representing in with the ketone?
well, I just stated that because that's what happened when you fast. But if you're not on a keto diet, there's really no concern, to be honest with you, even though it says it's a fat burning, process because it goes, think about it, the ketones, once all that sugar that the Dr. Matson brought out, that that when the fat burning process, when it depletes the glucose stores, that's when the ketones are produced.
Okay.
But if you're on a keto diet, then that matters. I mean, even though it does matter here too, if you want to measure it, but if you're not going to eat, if you're eating high carbs, then those glucose stores are going to refill.
Okay. So if
So
you have low ketones and it doesn't matter if because it's you still could be burning at some
yeah,
point.
you're burning it at a point still,
Yeah.
but
And if
but
you have high ketones, it just that's during the process that is happening.
oh yeah, you're burning fat with the ketones. The ketone is burning fat. That's what it's, the body, that shows the body is burning the fat and is depleted the sugar, if
Now,
that
in
makes
your
sense.
opinion, do you feel healthy, safe, unsafe? How do you feel when your body does have high ketones?
When my body has high ketones, I'm able to think clear. My moods are manageable because if you think about it, the hormones are balancing out, and you're not putting the sugars in your body. That's sometimes sugars. I'm telling you, it makes you. It makes those moods sometimes unmanageable, and also you don't feel as you're definitely the brain. You're not getting a clear thinking, and also you're not feeling like that renewed type of feeling. Like I'm like you woke up out of bed and just feel so refreshed. Like, oh yeah, I got this energy, and that's another thing that it does. It gives you so much energy. So my first time experiencing the ketones when I was first did keto, uh, I I think you probably remember that day that from the time I woke up to midnight, I was burning. I mean, I was burning. I had so much energy. I was doing so much around the house. I got in probably, I probably got in 30,000 steps that day. I was telling you, I said, oh, I feel like a teenager. and I also went ahead and I don't know if there's this coffee that I was introduced to as well that helped with the energy level. It was called the Bulletproof
Ah.
coffee with the MCT oil in it.
Mm.
Oh, that kicked it into gear. I mean, I was unstoppable. So I
I'm
had this really
unstoppable.
good feeling.
Right.
It was. I mean, I'm telling you, I haven't felt like that since I was a teenager. But that was what 2014. So, and then, let me say this too. When you experience that, sometimes when you're trying to you're not going to get that same type of energy if you repeat that. So when you feel that the first time, it's like enjoy it, and I took advantage of it. I surely did took advantage of it.
So just to add to that, and she definitely took advantage of it. Just to add to that too, as far as when you do, we were talking about not overeating. I was just looking at this. It
Mm-hmm.
says, although some people find it easy to stick with this pattern, you're talking about the pattern of fasting, however you do it, 16, 8, 8, however many do it over the long term. One research study that was not designed specifically to look at the intermittent fasting pattern found that limiting your daily time window of eating does not prevent weight gain over the time or yield significant weight loss results. That study results showed that reducing the number of large meals or just eating more small meals may be associated with minimizing weight gain or even weight loss over a period of time, along with what some form of exercise,
Yeah.
some form of activity. That's why we started at the beginning
Yeah.
talking about how the way we are, especially in this country, are different overall.
Yes.
So you see obesity more.
Yeah, because you talk about moving. That's what we were talking about, and got 24/7 entertainment in our face. We got the internet and everything, so it's so important to get the exercising in. And as I mentioned too in the beginning, I was doing a lot of walking, 2014, I did a lot. So I was doing that along with intermittent fasting and keto. Now, today, I'm not on keto, but I'm watching what I eat. So I know I probably would lose more if I was on keto, but keto is not a sustainable diet to be on for long term. So I'm really trying to get to where I'm just intermittent fasting and eating sensibly. So I didn't want too much. I mean, we're talking about what, that's 2014. That was what, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
So I've gotten older. I'm 8 years older. So
Old and
I
wiser.
have to make a decision to make sure, just like you guys have to make sure that you're not overly stressing yourself on what how you're eating. With intermittent fasting, you don't have to be on a particular diet plan to do this. And I remember last year when we intermittent fast, I think we did one show. I said, hey, we did not, even though we stopped walking, we uh, we pretty much just intermittent fasted, and we did not lose any of the weight. I'm sorry, we did not gain any of the weight that we lost. We kind of
Right.
maintained, which was I was surprised, because we were, you know, we weren't walking for, because it was cold. It was cold. We couldn't walk. It was
Right.
too hard. It was hard. It was really cold that year. So that's why I said it's so important to do that. And I noticed too, like I said before, your stomach shrinks. You
Right.
notice that your stomach shrink. You can't,
Yeah.
as much as you try to eat, it's hard to eat a lot.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's good. I like it.
Yeah. Just and really, just the two main things is always remember about how you eat and how active you are. If you keep those in the forefront of your everyday life, building a little routine and schedule, you'll
Hmm.
start feeling and seeing differences. Of course, people have to consult their doctor still. You still want to make sure you check in with those things. People have added hereditary issues and things like that. So again, we're not going to try to tell you this is what you're supposed to do, but along with checking in with your regular general doctors and things like that, those are some of the things that if maintained and scheduled will get you or head you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, make sure because I'm gonna say, and I know I talk about keto. Keto's not for everybody. In fact, you you definitely need to talk to your doctor about the keto. But we're really this show is about intermittent fasting. So, and I do know that some people have to take when they take a medication, they're taking it with food. So you got to make sure that you're lining up that eating your eating window or feeding window to when you're taking medication, but also too make sure you get with your physician because you may not you may not be able to do intermittent fasting, but the alternative according to what we just read is to do little smaller meals throughout the day.
Yeah.
Yep, just do smaller meals throughout the day.
Very, very important. And it does take a little discipline to a certain degree. But again, if you get on a little bit of a schedule or routine, you'll find it a little easier. And it's always helpful to have a cheerleader, have someone kind of helping you, surrounding yourself with the right minded people, positive people, things like that. Because stress can throw you off, it can
Yes.
add to your problems. Um, yeah. And don't, sometimes other people you may see certain things that's happening with other people, and it can be tough to watch. I can't tell you how many programs I've watched and just seen some pretty sad things. You feel sorry for those people. Some people can't even get out of bed because of weight issues
Yes.
and things like that.
Yes. Yes.
It's pretty
Yeah.
tough. So
Some of the things I want to bring out too that were challenges. There are challenges to intermittent fasting. I know I talk about it like it's easy breezy, but for starting out, I will tell you there are challenges even with the 16/8. And one of the things that I had to do because I was so if your body is used to eating breakfast every day, you're going to have some challenges on just when you first start fasting. And if you start your fasting window really like too early, like around 8 o'clock, and then you finish eating, a little bit early, and then you got all this window open to where you like you're still fasting, so you can't eat. It makes it difficult. So, what I suggest you do, if it's still a issue for you in the morning, you're going to like give it a few days, like even start at 11 or start at around. I think one time I did it like 10:30, or I kind of push it back to close to 11 or close to 12 some days, that I was, having issues, but I stopped eating at a certain time when I know, we were eating dinner, but I made sure that I had the protein or I had whatever I ate that it sustained me for the rest of the night, so that's when I say that's when I started playing with the feeding window whenever it got difficult, for me. And also too, the apple cider vinegar, drink help as well, because that helps your gut. That really heals your gut. So I didn't do it every day, but on those days that I was struggling, I was struggling. That hunger
Oh
was just,
goodness.
that hunger had me. I had to do something, but I wanted to keep to, the plan. So I was determined to keep to the plan. So those were some of the options that I had, back in the day, back in 2014. Part two is up next. Thanks for listening to Spice O Life.